Hello everyone. Welcome to another live stream session. Yeah, for some reason the name never gets updated. I have to update the name after I am done with the work, which is very unfortunate. I really need to look into that problem. For now, I think we are fine. That's sorted. No problem. Mm, okay, continuing with the May traditions and whatever I have been doing for the entire month, I'm going to continue with my mermaid illustration. And today's dance form that I have taken is Manipuri. This is the rough sketch that I have for now, and this is my reference. So I'm using this reference both in terms of the pose as well as in terms of the clothes that she's wearing, the costume that she's wearing, and I'm trying to implement that in this. Just making some few changes here and there. You know, I like the structure that I have laid down for her. It's nice, it's fluid, it's flowing. And one of the reasons why I wanted to keep a nice, fluid, flowing structure is because of this large frill pattern that is there, that is part of the costume. I find this so interesting. Not something that you see very often in Indian dance forms. So I love this flowing structure that is there around her waist. And so, taking inspiration from the flowing structure around her waist, I've tried to implement that flow to the rest of the body as well. Just going to tweak certain parts. These fins, for example, one side is actually moving so in such a fluid manner, the other one not so much. So I just want to create that evenness in the design. Maybe even let certain parts overflow or overlap on top of each other. So I'm just going to pull this out as well. Push this out a little bit to create more fluid structure. More fluid structure, not fluid, fluid structure, sorry. I've been really enjoying these mermaid illustrations, not only because of the experience of being able to draw mermaids or being able to draw uh, women, female characters, because I really, really don't do that much. Most of my characters are male characters because I think um, I think subconsciously I find male characters very, very easy to draw, and they are actually easy to draw because I think it's a guy guy and girl thing. I think girls find it easier to draw girls, and guys find it easier to draw guys for some odd reason. Um, so I find it very easy to draw guys. Also because uh, when it comes to the male anatomy, there are just so many pivot points to work with. It's the male anatomy is the ideal male anatomy is was supposed to be chiseled, and because it is chiseled, there are just so many different points that actually act as markers. Whereas the ideal female body is dominated by the understanding of curves. So there are no markers when you're working with curves. You just have to make mental notes while you're working with curves, and that can become very challenging sometimes. So I find it very difficult to work with the female body. So the this Mermaid challenge has allowed me to practice the female anatomy a little more, and to understand how to work with female anatomy a little more. But one other reason why I have really thoroughly enjoyed working with the Mermaid series is because it has allowed me to explore silhouettes in a very interesting manner. If you just look at the silhouette of what I've created right now itself, it's it's so uh, vast and it's so flowing, so the silhouette of this itself and the silhouette of all the other characters that I have created, I think from the beginning of Mermaid, has been very, very interesting. Very different types of silhouettes I have had the pleasure of being able to explore during this series. So yeah, it's been very, very enjoyable, and I'm guessing this Manipuri um, piece is could probably be the most detailed piece that I have created up till now. I think up to this point, my wife told me that the Kathakali piece is the most detailed piece that I have created, the one that I posted on Instagram yesterday. But I'm I'm guessing that this could well take over that Kathakali aspect, especially considering that for the Kathakali aspect that I uploaded yesterday, the detailed parts of the Kathakali thing was only limited to the attire that the Kathakali was wearing. But in this Manipuri thing, I'm actually extending it all the way into the fins as well. So I think this could well be the most detailed one that I have drawn till now. Could also be the most colorful one that I've drawn till now, even though majority of what she's wearing is dominated by visuals of white. But this could still be one of the most detailed ones that I am going to draw up to this point. So okay, let's move into this. Let's move into some more details. Mm, Especially over here. Now there is a very long section, two very long sections that I have over here. And if you actually look at the attire, there are no such long sections. There is a long section over here, but you can see that there are circular patterns running across these long sections, right? Those circular patterns are something that I'll not be able to implement over here, right? Because that will comprise a very large circle. So I can definitely not implement the circular patterns over here. I'll need to figure something else out, maybe use some other kind of a pattern, or maybe make demarcations in between, which would mean a lot of work for me, right? But I guess that is something that I'm going to have to do. Mm. And while I'm creating these demarcations, I'm just constantly considering the volume of the tail fin and so on and so forth, and how much of a roundity it ends up showing because of the volume. That's very important to show. Let me try and create one of those circular structures here, and one on the other side as well. And there are these uh, triangular structures. If you see over here, across at the bottom, there are these triangular structures. So I just want to implement those triangular structures as well. See what that looks like. The main challenge through this entire design would definitely be these little triangles, or these little diamond shaped, kite shaped um, patterns that are flowing on this side, which I'm planning to implement over here, right below the frills of this beautiful skirt. And over here, especially, is going to be very challenging because I want to consider the volume again. That's why the intention is to try and curve it out just like how the body is flowing, right? You can also see that um, the pattern that she has is not something that is just straight, it's also running diagonally, which can become quite challenging sometimes, but um, just need to work through that. Right now you can see because of the brush that I'm using. Now this brush actually allows me to have a very uh, a series of free flowing strokes, which I really love. I want to be uh, kind of I want to have that freedom and flexibility when I'm working with the initial sketch. But as I am moving into the final sketch, you will see that I don't use this kind of a free flowing texture brush, but rather a hard, round, pressure sensitive brush. One more thing that I can possibly do is that I should have done that at the beginning is I can select these diamonds that I have created over here. I'm using the uh, free flowing lasso tool for this. Let me add this also, all these areas, and let me copy paste that into a new layer. So let me just cut this. Lovely, that's a new layer. So later on, what I can do is that I can actually manipulate this shape and see what else I can do with it. One of the main things that I'm thinking about is warping these shapes into place, into position. So I might just warp these shapes into position as well. You can see that the size of these are kind of fluctuating a little bit. I'm going to try and warp that into place as well. One of the major challenges while working with patterns like this is to try and create that sense of uniformity. But if in case you find it too difficult to create that sense of uniformity, then you can always rely on the tools that you have in Photoshop or other similar applications. I have a bunch of my students, I think, who are right now quite obsessed with Clip Studio Paint. I think they have bought full version licenses to be able to use Clip Studio Paint. I have personally never used it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. So hopefully sometime in the future. I also hope to return back to using Procreate. So after this Mermaid month, um, May that is over, maybe I will go back to using a little bit of Procreate. So this doesn't look bad. This actually looks quite good. Seems to be working well. One thing that I would still like to experiment with is to be able to warp that entire thing out and see if I can create a more pronounced roundity, fluidity of the shape of the volume, right? So I'm just going to firstly duplicate this entire layer so that if in case the warp does not go according to plan, I can always fall back on the original layer that I have over here. And I'm just going to warp this thing. That fin is a little disturbing that I have made over here. The tertiary fin, very disturbing because it's kind of putting me off track on how the pattern is supposed to be flowing. Okay, so initially it looked something like this. Now it looks something like this, right? So maybe I can uh, stretch this out a little bit. Right, so it looks like it's bouncing off from there. And what I can do is I can select this part also, do something similar with this. We have something like this. This is not bad. This is workable. This I can work with and see what is happening in terms of the shape. Okay, put this down. And now to figure out what to do with this aspect of it. I'm most probably going to have to bifurcate this even further so that it does not remain such a large chunk of uninvested area. So again, keeping the volume in mind, I'm just going to go through this. Maybe the golden circular bits in between, possibly. So if I keep the golden circular bits in between, okay, I want to do these longer strands that I have done over here. I would like to do them, I'd like to repeat them somewhere over here in a smaller area, things like that. And actually, I don't mind keeping open spaces in between, like just simple open spaces that kind of act as a reprieve to the already overwhelming amount of detail that is there in this piece. So I don't mind there being just open spaces like that as such. Okay, I think everything seems to be working properly now. We have a figure down properly. We can go into doing the final line art for this and seeing how else we can actually make this a little more interesting. What I would also like to look at is a little bit into the background. Because in the previous pieces, I noticed that I am not actually able to ideate about the background too well, and that might be because I'm keeping the background for the end. So I thought that rather than keeping the background for the end, what if we could actually start concentrating on the background from this point on itself, right? So nothing too detailed as such. I am thinking of trying to put some kind of coral reefs in the background, right? And I want to also just die down the scale of this a little bit. Yeah, maybe that much. That looks fine, right? Keep it like this. And also in the previous posts, what I've been doing is that I've been adding a caricaturist sort of an idea by making their heads a little bigger than what they're supposed to be, just giving the entire caricaturist rule. But the way that this particular thing has been structured, I actually don't want to meddle around with the proportions that I've already justified for this particular character because she seems to already be flowing really well, and maybe increasing the size of the head might tip off the balance, the balance of the aesthetics that on which she's riding on right now. So I don't want to meddle around with her body proportions right now. I just want to go ahead and keep them as is for now. So, um, as I was saying, I was thinking of actually adding some kind of corals for her. I'm not going to research into what the corals actually look like. The main thing that I want to look at is just where it is that I want to place these corals that I'm talking about. So maybe just, so in behind her, just some corals that are kind of sticking out. And I've been adding a lot of other sea creatures, just to be able to make them a little more interesting. I've been adding some more sea creatures. In this one, however, I don't think I'm going to add any sea creatures as such because I don't want the focus to shift away from her, or I don't think she requires something else to complement her as such. Because, as I said, she already has so much of detail on her body that I don't want anything to take away from the amount of detail that she already has on her body. So I don't think I'm going to add anything else as such, any other creature. Maybe a few fishes in the background again, just like what I did for the Kuchipudi illustration. There were a few fishes. So over here also maybe a few fishes in the background, um, swimming across or stuff like that. But for now, I think this much of a background is enough for me to be able to move into this illustration properly. Right, something like that should work. Okay, cool. I'm going to shift the opacity down considerably, maybe just at 25%. Switch on a new layer. Take my hard round pressure brush. I love this hard round pressure brush. It always looks great. Though, why am I using the hard round pressure brush? I don't think I'm using the hard round pressure brush for this series. Am I? I don't believe so. No, I'm not. I'm using my texture brush itself for the series. Okay, no hard round pressure brush. Texture brush. Seem to have forgotten what brush I'm using for the series. Okay. Switching on the Kuchipudi illustration again to just check what is the size of the brush that I've been using for these illustrations. Definitely not this. Okay, cool. So this then. Let me just switch that off. Come back to this. bring my reference a little closer so that I can see it properly while I'm drawing this out. Okay. One more reason why I was very intrigued by this Kuchipudi piece and I really wanted. Oh, new information. The central theme of the Manipuri Ras Leela dance form is the love story between Krishna and Radha. Right. Interesting. I'm not entirely sure. So I was just saying that I have never seen this kind of a headgear in any other Indian dance form. One other reason why this was very interesting, and the Krishna and Radha, that Leela is something that is so recurrent in our Indian culture, in our Indian paintings, in our Indian dance forms, uh, and it is something that is so universal for us in within the Hindu tradition that aspects of the Krishna Leela and his love for Radha is something that is depicted in the folk art and classical Indian art and in classical dance forms from every single state of the country. It is such an amazing unifying factor, I believe, because I researched on aspects of Gond. I researched on aspects of Rajasthani mural art styles, the Kerala mural art styles, the Tanjore paintings from Tamil Nadu, the Kalighat paintings from Calcutta, the Pattachitra from Odisha, um, the Thangka paintings from the northeast, um, uh, so many other art styles that I'm not able to recollect right now, from central India, from western India, if you also consider Varli from Maharashtra, all these painting styles from all across India have in some way or the other um uh, depicted the love between Krishna and Radha. That's our course for Devyani ma'am's class. Yeah, basically. So if that is the course that you have been studying, then you must have also seen that, in all these different art styles, they always, in some way or the other, depict the love story between Krishna and Radha. The different dresses. This one is the Ras Leela, though, I think. Oh, okay. This is just specifically the Ras Leela. I see. Yes, I was looking up this thing, references for the Manipuri dance form, and I did see that a lot of the dance forms actually look very different from each other, especially in terms of the costume. I didn't see the dance, of course, but the costume actually looks quite different from each other. So I've always had a very hard time drawing girls, as I've already said at the beginning of the stream. But I found that one particular cheat or sorts, I would say an illustrative technique or a cheat, however you may like to call it, is that when we are drawing uh, male characters, we tend to show their whole noses. Uh, uh, Other than in anime, of course, in anime, no character has whole noses as such. But if you look at classical European styles of art or classical European styles of illustration, uh, especially digital illustrations, you will see that male characters usually have their whole noses drawn. Unlike this one, for female characters, a lot of illustrators avoid drawing the bridge of the nose, and they end up drawing only the lower half of the nose of the nostril, lower half of the nose and the nostrils on either side, much like what I have done over here. Apparently, uh, so that's the thing. Initially, what I was talking about is curves. Drawing with curves is actually quite difficult. What But to actually reduce the complexity of drawing with curves, what illustrators do is that they go down a very minimal road. And this nose that I've drawn is also one of those attributes that a lot of illustrators use for drawing women, and that is go down a very minimal road. So I kind of stumbled across that in a lot of the illustrations that I was looking at, and I saw that a lot of illustrators were actually going down the minimal road, especially when it comes to faces, and also especially when it comes to the kind of uh, folds and creases that you see on the skin for females. They actually go down the minimal road to be able to do stuff like that, to be able to depict that, okay, my character is actually a girl. I love this drapery. It's beautiful. I'm going to have to figure out how to color this, but I don't think it should be much of a problem. I have an idea. Let's hope that the idea works. I miss going to the museum. I remember that I had gone to the Prince of Wales Museum, Chhatrapati Shivaji Museum, I think in 2019. And in 2019, when I had gone, and I think I'd gone with the students only from college. And when I'd gone in 2019, there was this on the first floor in the East Wing of the Prince of Wales Museum. There was this amazing textile collection, uh, and textiles from different parts of India and textiles from different centuries of India. And it was just so beautiful. And I remember watching or seeing this textile that came from um, not Manipur, but definitely one of the Seven Sisters, and it had it was the textile, the piece of cloth that I'm talking about right now was about 9 meters long, and the entire length of the 9 meters was previously uh, of uh, of silk, and on silk was golden thread embroidery, and there was not a single inch that was not made of the golden thread embroidery, and the embroidery was so intricate and so beautiful, and it was just mesmerizing. And I think it came from the 16th century. uh yeah, so it was approximately 16th century. If we say 16th century, then about 400 years old. That drapery was 400 years old. And there was an elaborate explanation as to uh, who that piece of drapery belonged to, but I think I completely forgot about it because I was just mesmerized uh, by how beautiful that entire thing was. Who are your art parents? I see that you are watching the podcast diligently. I see that it is actually making a mark on you for you to be able to ask that question. Who are your art parents? Um, I don't think I have any art parents right now. I don't think there is I don't think there is any particular artist that I actually go back to again and again to be able to learn and to be able to figure things out by looking at their work as such. So I don't think I have any art parents right now. I just go to ArtStation and look at the different types of art that everyone is creating, and that kind of becomes that kind of inspires me to look at what else I can possibly create. But as such, I don't think that I have any art parents right now. Who are your art parents, Shiva? Abhi to you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I cannot draw hands. I can understand why, because I cannot draw hands. Considering I am your art parent, there is no rescuing you. Same and same. Hi Aditi, thank you. I had art parents, in the sense that when I started off digital painting, and I started off digital painting, I think in 2011, 2012, something around that time, I started off digital painting, and my primary art parent back then, the artist that truly influenced me at that point of time, and I always went back to see his works, to be able to find solutions to, is this particular artist called Marko Djerdjevic. Um, his work was brilliant. He was a very renowned. He still is. He's not. It's not like he's dead or anywhere close to dying. He's in his he's in his 40s or 50s, I think. But he is an extremely renowned Marvel artist. He was drawing covers for Marvel for a very long time, and then he shifted away from Marvel. He left Marvel and decided to start his own concept art studio along with his wife in Berlin, called Six More Vodka. And Six More Vodka has actually been doing some absolutely intense work. Marko Djerdjevic's skill is just growing even after being such a successful and renowned artist. The man does not stop to learn. He does not take a break from the kind of work that he's doing, and he's just. I find Marco to be absolutely brilliant even now. But back in the day when I just started off with digital painting, I not only found him brilliant, but I was unapologetically copying his works. I was unapologetically copying the kind of color schemes that he used to use, and very honestly, by doing that, I learned a lot about color. I learned a lot about digital painting. I learned a lot about blending, and things like that. So that really worked for me. Even though at that point of time, in some part of my head, I was feeling quite guilty that I'm just blatantly copying. But now, when I actually look back at it, I understand that I was not just blatantly copying. It ended up with me understanding a lot of things through that practice. So I'm quite happy that I did that. And Marco Djurdjevic was definitely one of the biggest influences in my life, in my early digital painting life career, however you may say. Style of drawing multiple hands also comes from him, or it's all you? Oh no, that's all me. That's all me. I don't think Marco draws multiple handed characters or anything like that. No, his characters are very, very intense. There is no doubt about it, but it has nothing to do with the idea of multiple hands. You know, the multiple hands thing is definitely something that somewhere in the future, when people actually look back at the kind of artwork that Indian artists were creating, I would like it to someday be such that when they look at a multiple armed character, they will immediately go, I think this is made by Vivek Nag, because uh, I would like the multiple armed characters to be uh, my trademark. I love drawing multiple armed characters, and I've thought a lot about it, and I think I know why I like it so much. But yes, I would love for that to be um, my trademark. That multiple armed man. This must have been made by this artist called Vivek Nag. Multiple arms mermaid. Next one. Ooh, okay. Wait, why did I consider that before? Should have considered that before. Mm, okay, let's see. I'm actually planning to make like 10 for this series, 10 mermaid illustrations for this series, right? I was initially aiming for much higher than that, but I don't think I can spare more time than that. Plus, I have gotten into the habit of wanting to play some games at this point of time also. So I definitely don't think I can spare enough time to be able to make 15. But I definitely want to make 10. Even if the month of May crosses, I would still like to make at least 10 for this series and maybe compile them all together at the end of it. But yeah, I actually don't mind doing one with multiple arms. That is quite interesting to me. I also want to continue making um, a series of things. You know, I have always found, after looking at the work of multiple artists on Instagram, after looking at the portfolio of um, extremely influenced artists from like industry experts and things like that, I have always found that uh, doing works in series actually uh, not only makes a lot of sense but also attracts a lot of attention, right? Because one of the biggest challenges that every artist must face is the idea of visual continuity. And so, actually, creating a series not only allows you to uh, think about things in a thematic nature, but also allows you to kind of show that yes, you are capable of showing things in a certain type of continuity. It adds a lot of merit to you as an artist if you show the ability, or you show that you have the ability to think thematically, and also to show that you can have visual consistency in the works that you create, right? That is one of the things that I'm really struggling with right now with the Mermaid series. I think I have attained the visual consistency when it comes to the kind of colors that I have put into the series, into the characters, but not so much in terms of the kind of forms that I'm creating. So I'm just trying to be a little consistent in terms of the form as well. Random question: is tracing something that you cannot draw a good way to learn or not? At least in the beginning, for example, hands. No, I do not think that tracing is a good way at all. Instead, what I'm doing right now is I am looking, I am observing, and then I'm trying to put that same form into place. That is a method of learning, definitely. Uh, so consider it this way. It depends on a lot of things, but the main thing that actually comes into focus is how much of your brain are you using while you're drawing something. Okay. It's one of those memes, right? One of those sarcastic memes in which you're doing this, so you're using only this much of your brain. You're using this, so you're using this much of your brain. Using this, so you basically your brain completely illuminates. And in the fourth one, you just become an enlightened being, kind of a thing. But it's in a reverse order. That's why it's a meme, right? But when you're drawing, it you don't reverse that order. You let the order be correct. So when you're tracing, you are not using any part of your brain. You are just allowing your hand to move along the form and just tracing it. So there is nothing that is happening. You're not learning anything by tracing because your brain is not processing anything. It's on autopilot when you're tracing, as compared to when you are trying to look at something and you're trying to copy that. So you're trying to understand the form and then trying to bring the form into the canvas that you are using, as compared to actually looking at the form, studying what the form is like, and then removing that reference altogether and then trying to replicate it. That's when you're trying to use most of your brain power, and that is when you're learning the most. So yeah, tracing, definitely no, it doesn't work. In the podcast, I heard that to draw hands, you need to see your own hand. Draw. I don't know if that works. Oh yes, yes. Use your own hands. That is something that we did in art school when I was in art school when I was doing fine art, and I was uh, trying to learn hands for the briefest of times. One of the main practices was to be able to look at my left hand while I'm drawing with my right. So I'm posing my left hand in different ways, and I'm trying to draw it with my right hand. So that is a very very good practice. Cover that. What if you want to draw right hand? Yes, flip. Yes, what if you want to draw right hand? I knew that that question was coming. Well, you can't really do anything about it. You have to first study your left hand, and that left hand is basically going to give you the information on how the muscle structure works, and then you try and implement that same understanding of the muscle structure on the right hand. And yeah, that's the only way that you can actually do this. Otherwise, too bad. No, don't trace. Oh, that's not the pattern. I did not do the pattern quite right. It's supposed to be triangles and then smaller inverted triangles in between. something like that. Okay, I can do that same thing over here as well. Let me bring this down. If you guys are interested in watching certain few documentaries, then one thing that I would definitely suggest you guys watch is a documentary called Draw or Die. It's not actually much of a documentary. I mean, in terms of the genre, you can call it a documentary, but it's basically a documentation of an event that happened in 2008, 9, 2010. I'm not sure. It's basically an artist symposium uh, uh, called I think it was called Made Symposium at that point of time. It is an artist symposium where concept artists and fine artists, like commercial artists, not fine artists, commercial artists from different parts of the world and different parts of the Western industry gathered together for a 3 day workshop, much like I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but there is a week-long workshop that happens every year called The Trojan Horse Was a Unicorn. That's the name of the entire workshop. Trojan Horse Was a Unicorn, where again, some of the greatest artists from all over the world, commercial artists from all over the world, gather to be able to give workshops to the attendees and to be able to teach them some very, very important things about concept art, illustration, 3D, all kinds of subjects that we usually associate ourselves with in college. Uh, these people actually do that. So coming back anyway, Draw or Die is one such documentary which documents the 3 day happening of this Made Symposium and documents the different types of people who come over there. And I came across this particular thing back in 2011, 2012. I was going to FX school at that point of time, and I was exposed to this content in FX school at that point, back then, and I saw it, and I was so absolutely mesmerized and enthralled by it that ever since then, I think for a good 1.5 or 2 years, I would watch this documentary on an almost everyday basis, especially before starting my work, because that documentary that I'm talking about, Draw or Die, I'm pretty sure you will find it on YouTube, became fuel to me. You know, uh, when I saw that documentary, I basically, one of the main things that was going on in my head was that I want to become one of those people who actually is up there on the stage teaching such a large group of people and is so renowned and so famous because of the kind of work that they have done and because of the kind of skill that they have. I want to be one of those people. And so it kind of became my inspiration fuel back then. And in a Draw or Die, you are going to find some very, very amazing artists. All of those artists I researched on, and I started gathering all of their work, and I put them in my library and all of that, as in my visual library and all of that, to be able to see how I can possibly kind of be inspired by their work. One of the artists in Draw or Die, one of the main artists in Draw or Die is Marko Djurdjevic. Another very important artist is his wife Yelena Djurdjevic, who is also an absolutely amazing artist. She's a concept artist, also working in Six More Vodka. There were many other artists also. There is this absolutely amazing concept art studio in California called Massive Black, and a lot of artists from Massive Black had also come in. The director had come in, and so on. So it is just beautiful. It is brilliant. It was such a source of inspiration for me, and all of you should at some point or the other watch Draw or Die. Not like it is educational in any way whatsoever, but it is just a lot of fun and it is goddamn inspirational. So watch Draw or Die. You're not going to learn anything from it, but I watched it for 1.5 years without being able to work, without seeing it. So watch it. It's brilliant. Okay, continuing with this. Enough rant about Draw or Die. I've also always thought of actually doing something like that in India. Not that it does not happen, but kind of put together all of my favorite Indian artists and create a kind of a symposium where people can attend and so on and so forth. Have a look at the kind of work that they are doing, ask questions, mingle with different types of artists. It sounds amazing to me, very honestly. And at this point of time, now that everything has become so remote access driven, uh, we can also have an online symposium of sorts where the same kind of thing can actually happen, where we can bring together our favorite artists for a kind of a short symposium where people can mingle, talk to each other, do workshops, ideate, listen to each other's experiences, especially the experiences of renowned artists or highly experienced artists. All of that is actually possible, just that it's going to take a lot of effort to be able to put together something like that. But it it sounds so inspiring. It sounds like so much fun. Maybe I should pitch this idea to Whistling Woods and see what they say, or maybe not. I'll have to do the entire thing. Okay, let's look at the frills a little bit. I just one thing that I just did quite recently. I recently read a very easy to read book. Tasi has been doing the similar thing, right? Yes, Tasi has been doing Anifest for quite a long time, easily 12, 15 years of doing Anifest. Tasi has been doing that. Uh, but Anifest has changed in a way, kind of. Anifest has changed. Um, Mainly because I remember going to Anifest when I was studying, which is again a good 10 years ago, I think. Yeah, 10 years ago when I was studying animation. I remember going to Anifest, and it was one of the most inspiring things that I have ever been to. It was beautiful. It was brilliant. Uh, though the recent Anifest has not had as much success, I would say, as the previous forms of Anifest did. Um, Maybe it might be because of the content, it might be because of the kind of people who come in. There could be multiple reasons. Also, the involvement of other animation institutions have kind of reduced with Tasi. That could be one other reason, but the quality of Anifest has very mildly, I would say, deteriorated. Because of which I don't find myself being very interested with Anifest anymore, especially not as much as what I was previously when I was a student. At that point in time, Anifest was brilliant, and I still remember one of the most endearing mm, experiences that I had at Anifest is it is in the Anifest that I watched Sita Sings the Blues. You know, such a brilliant movie, and that brilliant movie was actually going on in this small little room. Okay, and that small little room was actually kind of like a basement room, with a circular opening on top, so you could actually come in from the first floor and look down at the screening also, and it was a small little room. So I was wandering around at Tasi at that point of time, very honestly. And me and my friend just happened to stumble across this room that was completely dark, circular opening on the floor with railings. So, and there was no one inside the room, absolutely no one. So we went and we looked down from the circular railing. We saw that a movie is being projected on like on the podium below. So what we did is we sat down, like literally crossed our legs and sat down and viewed the movie from above. And the movie had just started. It was like 5 minutes into the movie. The movie had just started, and before we knew it, uh, there was a good, I would say, 1.5 hours went by just watching that one movie. It was such a beautiful movie, Sita Sings the Blues. And I loved the experience of being able to do that, and the entire experience actually felt quite private because there was no one else there in the entire room. Again, was our assignment this time. Sita Sings the Blues. Okay, actually fun to watch. It was, yeah, it was. Firstly, it was a lot of fun to watch because the kind of stylization that comes through with Sita Sings the Blues is just brilliant. It is amazing. And secondly, I love the underlying feminist message that the movie actually delivers. That is the kind of feminist content that a lot of people end up uh, not only appreciating but also realizing and making mental notes from. It's so nice, and it's not toxic in any way whatsoever, and it actually talks about the plight of women in such a beautiful way. And no, and the central theme might be Sita, but there is so much more that is going on when it comes to the contemporary aspect of the animator herself, because she's depicting her life also through that movie. So it's brilliant. It's lovely to watch and behold. Okay, I'm done with this part. I shrunk this a little bit because it didn't feel right for it to just stay long over there. So I shrunk it a little bit, but now coming to the actual mermaid part, which is a a lot more challenging. Okay, so let me just finish off the overall part first. Let me finish off the fins. Okay, move on to the other one. Let me just create an extension of the body over here. I always like to go back out and check how the final line art is going. I like to add these extra lines here and there, which are not as thick as the actual line art because yeah, I these extra lines that are there kind of add a different life to the sketch. I think I mentioned this many times before on the stream. What is something you enjoy drawing the most, except multiple hands? Except multiple hands? You're really limiting my choices, Aditi. I don't know. I have always thoroughly enjoyed the idea of drawing from life. Anything and everything drawing from life. I love drawing from life. Um, there is just so much to learn when it comes to drawing from life, you know. And again, here's a piece of honesty about myself. When I was again studying 9 or 10 years back, I used to love drawing from life, not because I am learning a lot, but because people used to stare at my drawings. They used to stare at what it is that I'm trying to draw, and I used to draw decently back then also, and people used to love it, and I used to get a massive kick out of it. I used to get a real kick out of being able to draw when people are watching. It's almost exhibitionist in nature. So I used to get a massive kick out of it. Most people that I met, they used to say that I don't like it when people stare at me when I'm drawing. In my head, I'm like, what are you talking about? I love it when people stare at me when I'm drawing. Yeah, that might be one of the reasons why I'm streaming. But when I went to fine art college, right, at that time, that is actually one of the only times, because when I was doing animation, also when I was studying animation, I think when I used to draw and when I used to create my own content at that time, even then people used to come and they used to look at the kind of work that I'm doing and appreciate the kind of work that I'm doing. It gave me a real kick. I used to love having that. But when I went to fine art college, it is at that time when I realized that no one is crowding around me. It is at that time when I realized that, wait a minute, it in this environment where I am actually drawing and I'm giving it my best, no one really seems to care. And that at that point of time, and this is first year of my fine art college, that kind of got to my ego. And I used to think, why is no one looking at my drawing? And I used to make rounds of the class to see what other people are doing, because my first thought is that uh, they are not looking at my drawing because they must be better than me, and they are better than me, and so they must be judging my work, you know. And so to basically clarify that, whenever there is a model study or whenever there is a live study going on, I would take a break here and there, and I would go and I would look at other people's work and look at, are they actually better than me? Are they actually better than me? It turns out that they were not really better than me. I was actually, in terms of drawing from observation, and later on with a lot of painting, practice from painting from observation, I actually got better than majority of the people in my class. And yet people did not come to view my work while I was doing them. People really didn't care. It was actually much later on, in maybe my third year or so, that I realized that it's not like people didn't care, but people were so invested in trying to improve their own skill that they did not really have the time to go and do the rounds and stare at other people's work. And when I had that realization, firstly, I felt really crappy about myself. And secondly, it also added a sense of inspiration. I was actually inspired by the kind of ideology that my classmates in college actually have. That is not to say that I enjoyed college in any way whatsoever. I actually quite hated college. Very honestly, I hated fine art college. But it was actually truly inspiring to see that these guys um, were not here to waste their time gawking at other people's work. They were more invested in trying to better themselves. Maybe at the end of the class, when we were leaving from college, at that point of time, some discussions would ensue in which they would say that, "Oh, Vivek, your drawing was actually really nice. That was great. This was great." And I initially thought, well, if my drawing is so nice, why didn't you come to see it? Are you being sarcastic with me? But later on, I realized, and I actually became, involved in the conversation. And I used to say, "Thank you. I really like this part of your work also, and this was really nice." And they would say, "Thank you," and then we would actually discuss, and discussions would go into places like, you could actually improve this part, and you can actually look into this part. This part could actually really help you, and so on and so forth. And that's the kind of constructive discussion that really helps you become a better artist. So yeah, certain parts of college, like parts like this, I really miss. Other parts, not so much. I didn't enjoy college at all. I'm sorry. I think I just read your question again, Aditi. I think I might have tumbled into places that you were not expecting to go into, and I spoke about things that you were not expecting me to talk about. So sorry. I do not think that I will be able to show gills on this particular mermaid. She has way too much going on. Maybe in the flat areas that I previously spoke of, maybe over there, I might be able to show gills, but otherwise, I do not believe that I will be able to show the texture of gills on this mermaid. On this mermaid. I realized that one thing that I maybe should do to increase my viewership, and also maybe in things like Instagram and places like that to increase my followers, is to again indulge in some amount of fan art. I have not done fan art in years. I've not done fan art in ages. And I was just looking at my Deviant Art page that I had created again 10 years ago, and that's why it has such a horribly tacky name. But I was looking at my Deviant Art page and I saw that I used to do a hell lot of fan art, especially anime related fan art, which unfortunately I'm not doing anymore. So, and that used to attract a lot of people for obvious reasons. So maybe I should actually invest myself in doing some fan art now and then. Yeah. But the thing with fan art is that I cannot make a fan art of something if I am not watching something or if I'm not consuming new content. So to be able to make fan art means that I need to be able to make time to be able to consume that content. Okay. Flowing volume. Yep, flowing volume. That's good. Oops. See if I can create flowing volume here as well. Maybe you can try doing Love Death Robot since part 2 has come out recently. Ah, yes. I need to watch part 2. Need to take out some time and watch part 2. Have you watched it though? Oh, on the day that it came out. How was it? What did you think of it? It's good. First season was better. Yes, I know. I heard a few complaints from a few people that I know, and also a few people on social media. Some people were really enraged because a lot of them said that the visuals are absolutely spectacular, but they kind of killed uh, story and script in this particular season. There was no shocking kind of things that we expect from this type of content. I see. So, well, that's what, right? In terms of ideation, they didn't think hard enough. That's the thing with successful shows, right? It If you do one season that is absolutely spectacular, then now you have created expectations, and so when you actually move into the next season, you need to be able to create content. You need to be able to think of content that is as good as your first season. And I'm so sure that can actually be very, very difficult for a lot of content creators to be able to match that expectation of the audiences that they had created from their first series. That is mainly one of the primary reasons why my favorite show is, and I'm guessing will always remain, Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is just one of those shows. I mean, of course, it is um, subjective as to how many people actually enjoyed Breaking Bad. But for me personally, from a storytelling point of view and from a script writing point of view, I feel like they became better with each passing season, and there was literally no turning back from, for me at least, from eternally, I don't know, loving Breaking Bad. I mean, there is nothing that comes even close to it for me, I feel. Game of Thrones was at one point of time definitely a valid contender as one of my favorite shows before the fiascos that happened in season 6, 7, and then the prime finale, season 8. Oh my god, why would they even do that? I have no idea. Okay, moving into the last one, then I'm going to finish the line art and call it a day. Okay, cool. Now to just fill in these small details. It's going to take me a lot of time. So after this stream, I'm planning, not planning, I'm definitely going to do it. Last night, I got the opportunity to be able to download Mortal Kombat 11. So, after I am done with this stream, I am going to play Mortal Kombat 11. I still have a lot of pending work to do, but I think you all know what kind of a frame of mind this is called, where there is this impending doom that is kind of looming over your shoulders, but in front of your shoulders could well be, I don't know, a little kitten or a puppy that you just want to play with. Uh, and yeah, I am pretty much there. Doing the flat colors for this is going to be one hell of a task. Ah, going to have to do stretches before sitting down to do that. So did all this in 1.5 hours, and all I did was draw four boxes for storyboard. Okay. Yes, I don't know. Even my wife told me that, especially this line art process, for some reason, is very, very satisfying to watch. I don't know why it is so satisfying to watch, but apparently it is. I need to learn how to make Instagram reels. I'm seeing so many people making process reels, and apparently these reels have uh, some massive amount of reach. I mean, they have a larger reach than normal posts, apparently. Is that right, Aditi? Because I know that you have made reels and uh, they actually go out to a lot of people. I've seen a lot of likes on your reels. So do they actually have a larger reach than normal posts? Shivang, तूने भी you have also made like two reels, right? And I think they did quite well. 1 to 2K easily. Wow. Okay, not bad works. Depends. Some of them get a lot of views, but the ones you expect sometimes don't. Okay, so have you been able to figure out what works and what doesn't when it comes to the reels? And what's the usual duration of the reel? Is it like are all reels made of 30-second content, or is it 1 minute content? Not really. Following trending songs has many of your reels might get a lot of views out of nowhere. Luck. Oh, I see. Mm, a very distracting fan whirring sound that comes from some other house from behind us or something. So annoying. Let me try and make these circles over here also. Okay. And circles. Now larger inner circles. Try reels. It's fun. Yes, I really want to. I'm actually now starting to invest my time in trying to increase my reach on Instagram, and I've seen that a lot of people have taken to reels to be able to try and increase their reach. So I am also going to try that. And in any case, it feels like um, my live stream content is like ready content that I can maybe turn into streams, because I see that in all those process videos I see that there are a lot of close-ups of doing things like what I'm doing right now, maybe of line art and color and so on and so forth, and at the end there is this big reveal of the overall artwork. So I'm gonna try and maybe do that. So I recently watched a video differentiating between the concepts of illustration and concept art in the industry, and he said that one should not pursue both professionally. Why is that? Um, well, I think that is the ideology of the person that you were watching. Can you tell me what his name is? Maybe I know this particular artist, and maybe I'll be able to give you a background of such sorts. But did you understand what is the fundamental difference between concept art and illustration? Yes. Okay. So there can be multiple reasons as to why he might have said that. Though I would not hold it in a concrete understanding, because I know of people in the industry who have worked both as a illustrator and a concept artist, and I in terms of ideology, they might be very different, but in terms of technique, they are actually not that different. In terms of how you want to do concept art and how you want to do illustration, they're not so different. Um, but basically speaking, one of the main reasons why the two doesn't actually happen is because the kind of clients that you work for, to begin with, for example. The concept art clients are clients who have different sorts of demands as compared to illustration clients. Concept art clients are the kind of people who are going to come to you and say that, okay, this is the idea, this is how we are visualizing the entire idea. But they're going to tell you in terms of words, of course, this is the script, this is the story, this is what we are aiming to achieve, and this is the time period that we have to be able to achieve it. Concept art is a grueling process mainly because of the time frame that is given to you as a concept artist. Mark Brunette, I think I've heard of Mark Brunette, I'm not entirely sure. But yes, continuing. A concept artist, the amount of time that is given to you for a project as a concept artist is extremely limited and extremely grueling, because of which one of the primary things that a concept artist needs to be is fast. A concept artist needs to have a very very good amount of pace, because of which whenever a concept artist is doing concept art, it's pretty much all hands on deck, which means that you can draw, you can paint, you can use 3D materials, you can use pictures, you can do photo bashing, you can do textures, you can literally do anything and everything that you can to be able to create your concept in the fastest manner possible. And it needs to have a certain sense of quality as well. So concept art is a grueling process. I cannot imagine someone who is doing concept art to be doing illustration at the same time. Illustration, on the other hand, is not as much of a grueling process as concept art. Illustration, on the other hand, also does not demand a scale of work that concept art does. So essentially, in 2 days, where a concept artist might end up making um, 20 sketches and 3 or 4 digital paintings in 2 days, an illustration artist would most probably be working on a single piece. And I think that kind of demand and the differentiation of the demand between the two demands might be one of the reasons why a concept artist never ends up working on as an illustrator, and an illustrator never ends up taking concept art. Now, of course, these are variables that I'm talking to you, that I'm telling you, and they might change, they might vary depending on um, uh, the kind of project that the said artist is doing. But I definitely think that that is one of the primary reasons. The scale and scope of work is one of the primary reasons why An illustrator does not work as a concept artist, and a concept artist does not work as an illustrator. But I do not. I'm one of those people who thinks that that is you are in the uh, you are in the belly of the whale. Definitely, you're in the belly of the whale. I am not entirely sure that answers your question though, but let's hope that it does. Going to have to extend this out a little further and erase these parts. And game art is basically making illustrations, right? No, game art is both concept art as well as illustration. It depends on what it is that you're talking about. For example, I think one of the best examples that I can give you, Bhavya, do you play this game called League of Legends? I'm pretty sure you must have heard of LoL, you must have seen League of Legends. Do you play League of Legends? Nope. Okay. Have you seen League of Legends? As in uh, some gameplay videos, or do you know what League of Legends is about? If not League of Legends, then maybe another uh, game of the same category, for example, Dota. Right. So you do. So in League of Legends, for example, the team of Riot comes up with the idea that we want to create a new type of a hero. Okay, and this is the backstory of the hero, and this is the abilities of the hero. Now we want to visualize this hero. This is a new idea. We want to visualize this hero. For that, they are going to call in a concept artist. And the concept artist is basically going to actually look at what the abilities of this hero are, what is the backstory of this hero, what are the traits of the hero, what is going to be essential for the hero's design, and so on and so forth. And the concept artist is going to put together a series of sketches, a series of painted materials, a series of sketches that basically shows what the power and the ability of the hero is going to be like, and so on and so forth. Put all of that together, put color variations in together, all those things together to eventually create the hero, right? Create the concepts of the hero, and then those concepts are basically going to go to the other game artists, the 3D game artists, and they're going to create the 3D rendition of this said hero. But now that the hero is all created, okay, now they want to market the hero. Now they want to create intrigue among the players to basically show, look, now we have a new hero in the arena, and this is what the hero looks like, and basically generate hype around the hero. For those artworks, they are going to call in an illustrator. And an illustrator is basically going to look at all the ready concepts of the hero and all those things, and they're going to start making illustrations to create hype value for the said hero, right? And this hype value comes from the illustrations that the illustrator is going to create. So for any game project, you're going to have both. You're going to have an illustrator, and you're going to have a concept artist who is basically going to create the concepts for the hero. Does that kind of answer your question? Great. The last, very last part of this mermaid, which is going to take some amount of time. Sounds way too interesting. It really is. It really is. You should definitely look at the concept art for uh, these kind of games, especially League of Legends. I'm not a League of Legends player, but I follow the art that is done by the art team of Riot. Riot, I believe, has an amazing, amazing art team, and I've been following their work for quite some time. And the kind of art, concept art that they create for these characters are just beautiful. They're brilliant. Uh, these kind of games also have something called splash art, which is the promotional artwork that I'm talking about. That is the splash art. And the splash art is done by illustrators, and the illustrators also have these beautiful, beautiful stuff. You know, at the beginning of this stream, I was talking about two studios actually. I was talking about one studio called Six More Vodka and another studio called Massive Black. You should look at the work of Six More Vodka. Six More Vodka does the artwork for Legends of Runeterra, and you will see that the artists, as an extension of your previous question, you will see that the artists in Six More Vodka do both. They do concept artwork and they do illustration work, right? So I definitely don't think that it is a principle that is set in stone. It is something that completely is based on personal preferences of the artist. Can you please repeat the names once more? Um, uh, the first, this thing studio is Six More Vodka. It's one single word, Six More Vodka, Vodka, the alcohol. And the other one is Massive Black. You're going to find Six More Vodka in ArtStation as well. They have their own account in ArtStation. You can follow their account on ArtStation. Wow. As I said, and as I expected, this is actually taking quite some time. Maybe I should continue from here itself because otherwise it's going to look odd. Hmm. Okay. Oh yes, at the beginning of this stream, I was also talking about a book that I read. I read this book today morning, and I finished the book in about 45 minutes or so. Um, it's called The War of Art. It is a book that I heard of in the um, in the podcast that I listened to, the Draftsman podcast. In one of the podcasts, the topic of discussion was this book. This book being um, The War of Art. You can actually just download this book. The PDF version is freely available on the internet. Actually, I just typed War of Art PDF, and the first link is just the PDF itself. So it's very easily available, and it's very interesting. The War of Art is actually not written by a visual artist. It's written by a literary artist. It's written by a writer uh, who are also artists, also of course. And this particular writer who has written War of Art is an American. He was in the Marine Corps, right? In the Marine Corps or Corps, I'm not entirely sure how you actually pronounce it. But he was a Marine basically. Okay, and the book called The War of Art is completely and utterly about the idea of procrastination. It is about it is so he basically what he does is he lists down a whole range of things that allows us as artists to procrastinate and calls them resistance. Okay, and the book is divided into uh, three chapters. The first chapter is about resistance. The second chapter is about how to combat resistance, and the third chapter is about what is life beyond resistance, or how is life beyond resistance. Okay, and it's it's a serious read, and not only is it a serious read, it's actually a harrowing book because this man who has written the book, I unfortunately forgot his name, but this man who has written the book genuinely believes that every single thing that deters us from doing our work is resistance. Okay, and I mean every single thing. There is a chapter in the book that basically says that if you are doing your work and your pregnant wife is going to deliver your baby, and you have to get up from your work and be on your wife's side, then that is resistance. That is how deep he goes into actually trying to suggest the idea and concept of resistance. It's actually, uh, as I said, it's a harrowing book. It's easy to read because there is very, very less written content on it, but that is how far he goes into describing procrastination and into describing this idea of resistance. And you can imagine it because this man is an extremely disciplined man. He's a marine, for God's sake, so he is an extremely disciplined man. But it's not all bad, of course, because he also in the book states that resistance are also have specific types of categories, and there are certain types of resistances that no man can ever overcome. And one of those resistances is your duty towards your family. So it's not all bleak. It's not all, you know, you should stop living your life and only do your work kind of a thing. But yes, he does talk about things like this. One more thing that he talks about, and this is the unlike the previous example that I gave about the pregnant wife and so on and so forth, there is another example that he talks about, and he talks about it positively and he talks about it passionately, is that it is very, very essential for an artist to be miserable. He actually says that. He says that openly, and as I stated previously, he says it positively. That is, it is very, very essential for an artist to be miserable. He actually says that. He says that one of the main things that he learned from being a Marine that he will never ever forget is the idea of being miserable. And he's very grateful to the Marine, or to be a part of the Marines, because they gave him the opportunity, as well as all the other Marines, to be miserable. Now, why does he say that? Why does he say that artists need to be miserable? Why is he stressing on this idea so much? He stresses on this idea so much because he says that being an artist is not easy. Whereas there are so many other jobs that can be physically draining, okay? And there are so many other jobs that can be psychologically draining. Being an artist is a process that is truly and immensely emotionally draining. It is emotionally draining to be a creator, to be an artist, because we are one of those people who truly actually puts out a part of ourselves through the work that we do. And when we do that, we actually emasculate ourselves in some way or the other, and so, or emancipate ourselves emotionally, so to speak. And so, if you are not used to being miserable, then being an artist is not for you. Only if you are used to being miserable can you become a great artist. Not something that I completely comply with. Of course, I do not think that you need to be miserable to be a good artist. But at the same time, I am in awe of this man's way of thinking, and not only way of thinking, but also how bold he is in trying to make these kind of statements. Uh, there are all these weird things that he talks about, definitely, which makes you think that he might be a little bit of a lunatic. But at the same time, he does actually put out things that makes me feel guilty about myself. I think it'll make every artist feel guilty about himself or herself, and that is when he talks about procrastination. He he considers procrastination to be absolutely vile. He thinks that procrastination is the bane of all artists, and he thinks that every single artist who procrastinates actually deserves, truly and utterly deserves to fail. And an artist who is procrastinating has absolutely no right to complain about his or her failure. He looks down upon procrastination completely and says that if you are not working, then you are not working. That's literally it. The book literally starts with these titles: "Do it" or "Don't do it." Either one of the two. You either do it or you don't do it. There is no field, there is no ground in between. You either do it or you choose not to do it. That's literally it. That is, procrastination is just a word that has become an umbrella term to hide our excuses, but otherwise there is nothing else. You do it or you don't do it. So it's a book that will make every single artist guilty. And that's one of the reasons why I love this book so much, because it actually made me feel guilty, made me think that, yeah, I actually do procrastinate, and that is what is damning about either me or my future or what where it is that I am right now, whatever it might be. But procrastination is behind everything. So it's an amazing book, and you all of you should read it at some point or the other. It's just brilliant in its capacity of making you feel like making you feel like crap. So at some point or the other, all of you should read it. It's easily available on Google. Just Google it and you will find the PDF. Okay, so with this, I think I'm going to call it a day. I think my final line art has come out considerably well. I still need to finish parts of the faces and stuff like that, but I will get to it once I figure out what kind of colors and all of that I'm going to use. And she's wearing a translucent white veil of sorts, so I need to figure out how to actually do that. Also, thank you, Aditi, and also all the backgrounds and stuff like that. So I am trying to post on a regular basis. I'm trying to post like on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on Instagram. So I hope, fingers crossed, I hope that this is going to be done by tomorrow evening so that I can upload it and you guys can have a look at the final version of this Manipuri mermaid, right? So in the meanwhile, thank you all for joining my live stream today, for making it super, super interactive. Thank you, Shivang. Thank you, Aditi. Thank you, Bhavya, for asking me these questions and interacting with me. And I'm going to stream again on Friday, which is the 21st of May. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you. Thank you, Momo. Will you be streaming tomorrow? No, I'll not be streaming tomorrow, Bhavya. I'll be streaming on Friday. I stream on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I kind of try to maintain that order, right? So if you are free on Friday, you're most welcome to join, and I will see you there on Friday. Again, thank you all for joining my stream, and I will see you guys on Friday on the 21st of May. Bye bye.